I greatly appreciate the opportunity. I was asked to give a broad overview of some of the Yisodos in Taruvos for Basar B'cholov. I remember hearing from Barrel Wine, I heard this 30 years ago, he said the problem with Shas is that it expects you to know Shas. And the problem with Shulchan Aruch is it expects you to know Shulchan Aruch. So you hit Basar B'cholov, and the Shulchan Aruch, and the Shach, and the Taz, and the Pischei Tshuva, etc. And Nosei Kelim are all dropping concepts in Taruvos that you may or may not have gotten to yet. So the eighth is go to Taruvos first, right? And then the Shulchan Aruch, and the Ramah, and the Shach, and the Taz, and the Pischei Tshuva are all dropping concepts in Basar B'cholov you haven't gotten to yet. So there are concepts left and right that you may not have gotten to, and I want to just give a broad hakdama to some of the basic yisodos you're going to come across in Basar B'cholov that I found primarily in Hilchos Taruvos, but which will help you to hopefully be able to understand and apply the ideas here in Basar B'cholov beyond the initial ideas of waiting periods between milk and meat and etc. So the first yisod is not a halachic yisod, and Basar B'cholov Taruvos both, and that is that in order to properly learn Basar B'cholov and Taruvos, you have to really drop all your preconceived notions about Basar B'cholov and Taruvos. Right? All the ideas that you think you know, because we all know them. So when you open up a Shulchan Aruch, and especially you go back to Sugyas Hashas, and then through Beis Yosef and Mechaber Ramon, Nosei Kelim, so you find out that maybe some of our preconceived notions aren't so exact. I remember hearing years ago that Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky Zatzal said his Rebbitzin wouldn't let him in the kitchen because he draped up her kitchen. Because what does he know? What do you know? What you'll find when you're learning Basar B'cholov and Taruvos is that very often, I've gotten this many times, very often you get a call. It's this classic spoon and pot shiloh. I once got a call, so it's an Erev Pesach call, but it came in Chanukah time. So one was already making her soups for Pesach on Motzei Chanukah. It wasn't Chanukah, it was Motzei Chanukah. It was right around now. So it was the first Hilchos Pesach shiloh I got. What happened? She was cooking upstairs in the kitchen. She was cooking downstairs in the Pesach kitchen. And she went downstairs with the spoon, that was the chametz dika spoon, and she stirred her soup in the Pesach kitchen with the chametz dika spoon. Now, happens to be the chametz dika spoon hadn't been used in 24 hours. It was not ben yoma. So she wanted to know if the soup is okay, or the spoon is okay. She wanted to know, how does she kosher the Pesach kitchen, and how does she kosher the upstairs kitchen, because that's where the spoon came from. Oil Rosh, oil Shcheno. They kosher the whole place. So I told her, it's Pasha Halacha, right? No Saint Tam of Gam. It's before Pesach. It's soup's mutter. Soup's mutter. I think she's still hanging on the other end of the phone. Like the pause there was interminable. There's no question she hung up the phone, called somebody else till she got the Easter she wanted. But you got to drop the notions. Very often people call with these shilos is Eina ben Yoma shilos, and their first answer is, okay, I threw out the food. Now what? And don't. I always tell people, don't throw out the food. Give it to me, then ask the shiloh. If it's fine, I'll eat it. But I want to bring out some of the basic ideas that become important here. The most important one in Basar B'cholov Taruvos is Tam Ki'ikr. And Tam Ki'ikr is the yisod that the flavor of an Isser has the halachic status of the Isser itself. What does that mean? We have psukim in the Torah that tell us that lo sochol kol nevela. Can he nevela? We have psukim in the Torah that zeh tochel v'zeh lo tochel. I know, can't eat nevela, can't eat treifa, I can't eat a pig. Good. I can't eat a non-kosher animal. But there is no pasuk beferish in the Torah that tells me if I have a piece of bread, or a piece of fish, for that matter, that has absorbed and become penetrated with the flavor of a davar aser, but that's aser. Right? So if I have a piece of bread that's infused with pork flavor, Or I have a piece of bread that's infused with nevela flavor. Or I have a potato from a cholent that was made with non-kosher meat. So that potato itself, that's also. No pasuk in the Torah that says, lo sochlu kol potato. It happens to be cooked with a davar tameh. So that's tam kicker. That's the concept that in halacha, the flavor of Isser is considered like the Isser itself. There is a major machlokas Rishonim. Some Rishonim hold the whole tam kicker is D'Rabbanan. The entire concept is a Rabbanan concept. Mid'oraisa, it's not also, it's only D'Rabbanan. Some Rishonim hold tam kicker is D'Oraisa. It's a Torah level concept. And some Rishonim kind of split the difference, Reinu Tam Shita, which is that Tam Kicker is D'Oraisa, but ain't Lokin Olav. You don't get Malkos for it. So it's a D'Oraisa Isser. You only get Malkos if there's a shear of Kizayas B'Terechilas Pras. But that is the basic concept. The Gemara has a number of places in Shas where the Gemara discusses what's the Makor for Tam Kicker.
What does it mean that when you have the Tam, it doesn't have, it just has the flavor. The flavor comes from the Makar, so something must have transferred from the Levela to put it into the potato. So,
and therefore what?
Why shouldn't it be also?
Because the Torah says lo sochel kol Levela.
The Levela was actually in that potato. The potato be also, right? That's Pasha.
Correct.
So why is it not something that has to come from the Levela to the?
What came?
Something came, right?
I had a Kizayas Nevela before. I have a Kizayas Nevela now. I measure it out. I had a Kizayas Nevela before. Kizayas Nevela now.
That has to be, physically, there has to be more. There has to be something more, right?
So, we know on a molecular level, the transfer of tam or recha is a molecular transfer. There's a transfer of something, some amoshos. But there's nothing there in a tangible sense that you can see or detect in the vela. Right? I cooked a potato next to the vela. I'm eating a potato. So, many Rishonim hold tam kik is drabanan in Echanami. And Chanami, that potato is also neither Rabbanan because it tastes like a Davar Aser. Some Rishonim hold not. The Tam Kik is D'Oraisa. So one of the Makoros for it is Basar B'Chalav. The Bar Pesachim brings down as a Makor for Tam Kik or Basar B'Chalav because if I cook meat and milk together, so all there is in the meat is Tam, and nevertheless, it's Aser. Now the Gemara itself rejects that as a Raya for elsewhere, because of the fact that Basar B'Chalav is a Chiddush. The Gemara discusses what is its Chiddush. The Chiddush of Basar B'Chalav is that each one is mutter b'fnei atzmo, and it's only the union of the two that's Isser. Unlike other Isurim, where it's a Davar Aser, and then it's that which comes from the Isser. But your Tam Ki'ikar is a major Yesod in Basar B'Chalav, and in Taruvos as well. The idea that the flavor of Isser is like the Isser itself. My point, though, is just that point. My point is it's a Chiddush. It's a chiddush. It's a second step from the Isser itself. It's not. A potato that was cooked with pork is not pork. It's tam kicker. It might be d'oraisa. It might be d'Rabbanan. It might be d'oraisa, not chayav malkos. The classic shiloh some of the achronim discuss. Person's a chola, and he's a chol sheyesh bo sakana. And now he has to eat, and all he has in front of him is non-kosher. So you can either eat the pork or the potato cooked with the pork. Which should he choose? So that's a davar pashut, that the potato was better. Why? Some Rishonim hold it's d'Rabbanan. Even those Rishonim hold it's d'Oraisa, many Rishonim hold it's no malkos. So that's for sure, but that's better. But that is your concept of tam kicker. Now, in the concept of tam kicker itself, once you know it's a chiddush, it gives you a second level understanding that makes a huge difference. I think you're inside of here right now, right? You're doing not bar not. So not bar not is based on the yesod of tam. What do I mean? There is a difference in halacha between hetera bala and isura bala, where the initial absorption of the flavor when it came in was mutter, versus when the initial absorption of the flavor when it came in was asr. Why is it different? So it's a davar pasha why it's different. Because if I have an isser, I have a chefta shel isser, we have a concept in halacha, isser shmul heichanach. The isser is there. The isser transfers. I have a chefta shel isser, and now the chefta shel isser transfers from item A to item B. The isser is there. And now the tam of the isser that's novea from the isser is like the isser itself. Good. I have a davar heter. For example, many Rishonim hold that we consider chametz on Pesach Hetera Bala. Because Erev Pesach, before the 5th hour, it's Heter, which is, even though we have a lot of Chumros and extra Kalim for Pesach, based on Chumros in Rishonim, but L'maisa, it's Heter, it's Mutter, before the 5th hour of Pesach, so Shulchan Aruch brings down, you should be careful to do Hagala on your Kalim, Erev Pesach, before the 5th hour, because it's Heter. Hetera Bala, so what? So that means that what absorbed into this pot, into this food, was 100% Mutter. So what's in there now? What's in there now is intangible blios. Tiny, invisible, there's blios. So Mehechet Heisa, that when the Isser is Chal on the Cheftza Be'en, that it's also Chal on blios. That's a tremendous Chiddush. The fact that the Isser that's here transfers from A to B, that's already a Chiddush of Nisinas Tam Kicker. Fine, I'll accept that Chiddush. But the idea that a tam that went in beheter can now be nepach le'isser when absorbed only as an intangible tam, that's a tremendous chiddush. Such a tremendous chiddush, in fact, that it can't. Which is why not bar not is betzem mutter. You went into the three machlokas Rishonim of not bar not, but not bar not is mutter. Why? Because it's not just the weakness of tam. It's the fact that all you have is tam heter. It's a dayan heter. The basar goes into the kara, which goes into the dagim, which goes to the kusach, right? Now you've got basar into the kara, into the dagim. So you've got tam of heter into heter. And now it can't shaf an isser. It can't create an isser when going through because it's only an absorbed tam.
You're talking about when it's the rice or it's when it's rabban tam kicker?
Either way.
Why? If it's tam kicker is the rice, what difference does it make if it's a blia? Who cares?
No, because if tam kicker is d'oraisa, the chiddush of the Torah is that which comes from an isser is like the isser itself.
I understand. If tam kicker is the rice, so then that tam has the same shivas as the nevela.
So you're saying it's like you're saying it's slightly different than I'm saying it, right? Because what I'm saying is tam kicker is that which is novea from an isser has the status of the isser. In other words, tam kicker is not that the flavor of pork is pork. It's that the isser pork is isser pork.
Not by isser, by heter. You're saying that it's a bigger chiddush to say that
exactly.
It can go and create an isser bas b'chol fighter when it's a blia.
But because if the yesod of tam ki'ikr is that the tam isser, the isser transfers, there's no isser here. So you want to shaf an isser on something that doesn't exist really. It exists only in tam. Here, to shaf an isser on a piece of pork, it's aser, right? It's aser uba me'elav. It's an isser. So now, that isser, when the tam of that isser transfers the isser with it. Mashen can have a dover heter, and now I have here a dover heter that's below with a dover heter. And now some outside factor would come and would create an isser with that. That's a bigger chiddush. It's a much bigger chiddush. I have an isser in Basar B'cholav, especially because I have an isser lo savashak di b'cholev imam. Right? So if I have tam Basar and tam Cholav, I don't have a gedi, I don't have a cholev imam. I have neither. I have tam. So tam kicker tells me that the tam that's novea from an isser takes the halachic status of the isser.
Why? Why shouldn't tam kicker for the same price? You could say tam is kicker by heter too. Tam kicker by nevela, I understand. Because tam kicker deraisa means that the tam of basar, kosher basar gedi, is also like a gedi of kosher basar. Why not?
So the reason why not is because the mekoros for tam kicker are all by isser or by halachic status. The mekoros for tam kicker, basar b'cholav, chatas, are that it takes on the halachic status of the original. If it doesn't have a halachic implication, so that's not tam kicker.
I mean, tam kicker is only learned from isser.
Yeah, misurim or halachic parameters like a chatas. One of the mekoros is chatas that kol nogea bo, whatever's nogea in a chatas takes on the halachic status of chatas. It's the transfer of halachic state. So that's why there's a chiluk between a not by not de'atera and a not by not d'isur. There's a rush. There's a rush in Chulin. The rush says that not by not d'isur is derabanan. Most Rishonim hold the not by not d'isur. The Ran holds it's deraisa. That isur just keeps going down and down and down because the halachic status keeps transferring. Now, in Tam Kicker itself, we're mechalek between no sein tam livgam and no sein tam l'shvach. The Gemara in Sachim, lo sochol kol nevela gera shebisharechet dinet of achla. So from there we derive that haruya leger is kori nevela, v'she'enu leger ein kori nevela. What is fit for a ger toshav to consume, that's called nevela. If not, not. And that becomes the makor for halachic concept of no sein tam livgam, which means that if the flavor that's imparted from the isser into the heter is one that creates a negative result, not a positive, but a negative result, so in that case it's not osir. You'll get to, if it's pogame l'sof l'shviach or smich l'sof pogame, if it's not so simple, if it goes one way or another, and those things that are pogame in certain foods, not in others, but b'atzem no sein tam lifgam is mutter. There's no hanavas machlokas. We're on the Rashba and the Bedek Abayis, Torah Abayis, exactly how to understand the idea and the halacha parameters of no sein tam lifgam. But at its core, if the tam that transfers is pogum, is negative, that's not going to usher. That's not going to usher. It's not going to usher midiraisa. It's not going to be usher midirabanan. No sein tam lifgam is mutter. It's xera dirabanan on kalim, but that's a kalim shaila. Now, no sein tam livgam is very relevant to every basar b'chalav and taruv shaila. It's question number one, right? When the phone rings, the first question you ask is, was the pot used in the last 24 hours? Was the spoon used in the last 24 hours for hot, for dairy? One of the common phenomena that people have when they call up with basar b'chalav shilos is they don't get their facts right, even though they think they do. The classic, for some reason, which I still do not know, whenever a woman's going to take the wrong gender knife, a fleishik knife for milk or milk knife for fleishik, she's always going to cut onions with it. Like it's a klal gadol. She could cut anything in the world, she's always going to cut onions. Right? What'd you use for? Onions. Cut a potato. No, onions, it's always onions, right? So onions creates a problem out to davar charif, and the duchki sakin and the onions creates a problem out to davar charif. But if it's not the knife and the onions, usually your first question is, did you use it in 24 hours? Now, sometimes people call up, it's always dangerous when people have a little bit of knowledge, because they know the term ben yomo, they just don't remember which one's which. Ben yomo, it's Eina ben yomo, it's English, please. Right? Did you use this particular pot in the last 24 hours for meat or for dairy? For hot meat or for dairy? Describe it. Because I get all the time. I told us to the Kol Yom Golai in the yeshiva, people call up, I cut an onion with a fleishik knife. What makes it a fleishik knife? Because I put the little red sticker on it when I brought it home. Has it ever been used with meat? Never. It's an onion knife. Never been used with meat, never touched meat. It's only a fleishik knife because when I brought it home was Yikarei Shmo B'Yisrael, the fleishik knife. So, you have to actually know, is it or isn't it? But one of the questions you'll ask always, 24 hours. Why 24 hours? Because there is a halacha, it's Reb Meir in the Gemara in Psachim, halacha that when a pot is Eino ben Yomo, so then it's no sein tam lifgam, right? The Torah was only required by Klei Midjan to only required to be machshir those kelim that were b'nei Yoma. But Eino ben Yoma, if they weren't used in 24 hours, then it's assumed, the halacha assumes that absorbed flavors in the walls of a pot automatically become pogum after 24 hours. There is a machlokas Rishonim. Rabbeinu Tam sheet is that Laila is pogam, Linus Laila is pogam, that overnight is enough to create no sein tam livgam. Rashi sheet is at 24 hours. We're makbid, la halacha on 24 hours. So important to get there to know, not 23 hours and 59 minutes, but 24 hours mamish. But there are times where Linus Laila can be at tziruf. If it's left overnight, and you're dealing with other sniffim to be matir, so Linus Laila could be at tziruf. But you want to know, is it no sein tam lifgam? You'll get to, if you can get already, to the Ramah, on the Ramah's chumros, on not by not like the Mechaber, or only if it's ben yomo. But if it's not ben yomo, the Ramah says mutter. If you got to the goal there, so you'll see big vikuach in the poskim with regard to was that l'chatchila or b'diavad. Can you use an eina ben yomo pot l'chatchila to cook that which is parv to eat with meat or dairy? So I once, this is not for this year, I'll just tell you quickly. Somebody told me a Maisa once that his mother was neighbors with a family named Feinstein in the bungalow colony. First name Moshe. And his mother went next door to the Rebbitzin to borrow a parv pot. And Rebbitzin Feinstein didn't know what a parv pot was. She didn't know what a parv pot was. What's a parv pot? So, what do you do when you want to make something parv? She said, use an Eina ben Yomo, flesh milk like a pot. She had no idea. So I'm not saying everybody's masking to it, but the Miniglita was like that. Miniglita was like that, to use an Eina ben Yomo pot for parv items and to then cook it l'chatchila to use with the opposite gender of the food. Okay, now I want to take a moment to talk about flavor transfer. It's essential in Basar B'chol to talk about how flavors transfer. In other words, in halacha, there are different levels of contact and the potential for absorption of flavor from one item to another. One of the most shocking concepts to Balabatim, when they learn or they hear about Basar B'chol Taruvas ideas, is, imagine, I always give this example. Imagine I'm sitting eating breakfast, and I have a bowl of cereal and milk. And I have a teenage son who's eating a burger for breakfast, right? And his burger, which is cooled off by now, drops into my cereal bowl. Right? So what do? Right? You throw the bowl out because it's a Corel bowl. It can't be kosher. You throw the kid out. You throw that, burn everything. Right? What do? Well, the answer is the burger's cold. The milk is cold. Well, you take it out, you rinse it off, and you invite her. Right? You go further. Now you could talk Matul V'Tavlin, Maluach. There are times where there are bekius. There are times where it could be problematic. But etzem though, it's mutter, because absent some vehicle for transferring tam, absent some intermediary that transfers tam, there's no transfer of tam. So two things that are solid and cold that touch one another, okay, mediach, rinse them off and you're done. Rinse them off and you're done. In fact, not only that, but the Shulchan Aruch paskins, it's mutter lechatchila to lotzor in one mitpachas. You're allowed to, you may have seen this already. Mutter lechatchila to put in one mitpachas if it's derech ladicha. Because what are you worried about? It's going to touch. If it touches, I'm always amazed. You go to the grocery store sometimes, and there's a spill of milk on the belt. You know what I'm talking about? You ready to do grocery shopping? There's a spill of milk on the belt, and it's like the alarms go off. There's a balabusta with a chicken, and there's milk on the belt. You got to get the power washer, like get the blowtorch on the belt. So I like to put my chicken, it's saran wrap, on the milk. Right on the milk, right? Put it down right there in the milk. Well, I mean, what to have? I mean, it's a problem. It's sealed. It's cold. And even if I put the chicken itself on the milk straight, many show, well, that's mutter, because it's derech ladiach. You rinse off your chicken before you use it. So, but I'm not advocating you put your chicken down straight on the milk. But absent some vehicle to transfer tam, there's no tam transfer. So what could happen? You could require hadacha. You have to rinse off the outside. Okay, good. There are times where there is a transfer of tam. The transfer of tam is minimal. Minimal. What's called in the lush and the post gedei klipa. And gedei klipa means just that. An outer layer of the food that would be thick enough that if you were to peel it, it would peel off as one. It's scraping off the outer layer of the food. What would cause a bli of gedei klipa? So a bli of gedei klipa could be caused by an interaction of hot and cold through means of titol gvar. The Gemara in Psachim on Daf Ayin Vav Ayin Zayin, the Gemara there discusses the halachos in terms of hot into cold, cold into hot. Because if things are not hot, there's no transfer of tam. Hot means yad soledisbo. Not yad soledisbo. There's not a transfer of tam. Okay. So what if one is hot, one is cold? Hot meat into cold milk, hot milk onto cold meat. So the Gemara in Psachim concludes titol gvar, that we say that which is on the bottom overpowers, and that is going to then determine what its status is. The Aruch HaShulchan is mafli on this halacha. The Aruch HaShulchan can't understand how I could say, if I have a piece of meat this big, that's hot, and a drop of milk this small, that's cold. Good thing this is a video also. You can see the demonstration, right? Drop of milk that's this small, that's cold, it drops on the meat. You're going to tell me now, titogvar, that drop piece of meat that's cold rather than drop milk that's hot. You're going to tell me now, titogvar, that's which underneath is going to overpower, and it right? It's if I have a huge piece of meat dropped on a small drop of milk, titogvar. How could it be? The Aruch HaShulchan offers that it's only if they're about equal in size. It's a big chiddush in Aruch HaShulchan. It's not brought down anywhere before, but he offers if they're about equal in size. But if, let's say, hot meat fell into cold milk, so the halacha is that since we say titogvar, so the cold milk overpowers, and the hot meat into cold milk, the whole thing is considered cold. But the Gemara, the Brisa in Psachim there at the bottom of the Yom, the Brisa says, but ademaker le efshla bolaporta. As it cools off, it's not shaykh, it should absorb a little bit. So what do you have to do? You have to take off Kedei Klipa. It absorbs in the outer layer. Now, again, if I got such a phone call, I was bringing a steak in off the grill, and it slipped off the spatula, boiling hot, and it dropped into a bowl of milk. Someone called you up, so what's the halacha? The halacha is, okay, let's say titogvar. The bottom of the Gemara's example there is a korban pesach. Titogvar, it's cold. Be cold if the steak and eat it. Now, no one's going to do that, I don't think. But that's the halacha, right? Kedei klipa, cold if the steak and eat it. Finished. Kedei klipa also would come in if you have melicha on a davar tafel, on a davar kachosh rather. If you have melicha, salting. Because we have a halacha melicha kiroseach. Melicha kiroseach means that salt can act as a medium to transfer tam as well. Salting has the halachic status of heat and can act as a medium to transfer tam. Salt depends on how much salt there is, right? The melicha that transfers tam is she'enu nechol machos mochel. It is salty enough that you wouldn't eat it with that kind of salt. It means the kind of salting they would do to preserve. But that kind of salt would transfer tam. If it's nechol machos mochel, that's a chumras harama, which you have to be done. But salting, which would transfer tam, is going to depend on whether or not the item that is salted is fatty or is kachosh, is lean. Now, we don't have the expertise necessarily to determine fat or lean. You know, what exactly, especially if it's basar kachosh that comes from a behemoth shmeina or vice versa. We don't have the expertise, but meikar adin, that would determine it. So you have what's called a kedei. The next you have what's called a kedei netila. Kedei netila means that there's a thicker absorption that absorbs into the outer layer of the food. The shach gives a gather of a thumbnail's width to take off from the food. Sometimes you'll have two items that touch, and they're hot, but there isn't a liquid medium to carry the flavor all the way through. So it'll absorb only kedei netila. The very outer layer will absorb the flavor, but the rest is fine. So in that case, again, you would take off the kedei netila. In practice, these halachos are rarely applied as they are brought down because we're just too wealthy to, which I'm not saying is necessarily a good thing. The halacha shouldn't be forgotten. We should follow the halacha. But there's a kedei netila. Now, there is a concept that the isser is mifafeh. You'll get to this if you haven't gotten to this yet in a tipos chalav shenafal al kedera. If you have a drop of milk that falls on the outside of a pot, there's a concept that under certain circumstances, the isser that falls in, or the chalav that falls in, is mifafeh. It spreads. It spreads. And as it spreads isser, so to speak, as it goes along. It spreads, and each part, as you move along, becomes isser as you go. Why? So this is another halachic concept called chanan. I don't know if you've come across chanan, but chanan stands for chaticha atzma nasis nevela. And what that means is the following. Let's draw out a scenario that would illustrate the point of Basar b'chalav taruva shayla. Okay, we'll leave it in Basar b'chalav right now, and you can the machlokas mechaber ramah. We say chanan by other yisurim, but in Basar b'chalav taruvos, let's take it like this. I have a piece of meat, and a drop of milk, hot, falls onto that hot piece of meat. So no shilas about the fact that it's going to asa the whole thing, and there isn't, which we'll come to in a moment, there isn't a shear to be mevatel that milk in the meat. Okay, so I have an ounce of milk that goes into an ounce of meat, and they absorb together. Ounce of milk, ounce of meat. Now, that ounce of milk and meat goes into a pot of milk. How much milk would I need to be mevatel that mixture? There's two ways to look at it, right? One way to look at it is I have an ounce of milk and an ounce of meat. Now the ounce of milk and ounce of meat went into a pot of milk. So as long as I have 60 ounces of milk, I have shishim, I'm mevatel the meat, I'm home free. Shishim kenegdo. Right? Why not? I don't have to mevatel milk. Mevatel meat. The other way to look at it is what we call chanan. And chanan means that now this entire mixture becomes the isser. And because it becomes the isser, so I don't need 60 keneged the meat. I need 60 keneged the meat and the milk together. I need 120. By Basar b'chalav, Mechaber and Ramah are maskim, we say chanan. By other isurim, the Mechaber does not, the Ramah does, unless it's a mokum hefsei. The Ramah does not. By Basar b'chalav, everybody's maskim. The Sfar is the pashtus for Rabbeinu Ephraim. And the Sfar is, like we were saying before, by other isurim, if I have a piece of meat and a piece of pork falls in the meat, so I don't have enough to mevatel it, good. So I have now a piece of meat that can't be eaten because there's pork flavor in it. How much pork flavor is in it? No more than the original pork. So if I started out with an ounce of pork, I can't get more than an ounce of pork as I go along. Right? If I start with an ounce of pork, it goes into 10 ounces of meat or 20 ounces of meat. So how much pork is in there? 1 ounce. So how much do I have to mevatel? The Mechaber will tell you, 1 ounce. When I have an ounce of milk and an ounce of meat, and they mix together, so they're both heter on their own. Both mutter. What's the isser? The mixture is the isser. The tarovas is the isser. So if the mixture is the isser, so I need shishim keneged the isser. So what's the isser? The isser is the mixture itself. So by Basar b'chalav, we say chanan, and we require a shishim keneged the entire mixture in order to be mevatel it. And that's an important yesod in Basar b'chalav. Important yesod also because it actually comes up l'maisa. Comes up in practice. If there's a 2-step shaila, so you got to start asking yourself, well, was there an initial stage where there was a mixture which could create a chanan, and then I need shishim keneged the whole mixture. The classic case is if you have a kedera and you have shulchan aruch, you have a kedera, you have a piece of meat at the top, not in the rotev, not inside of the liquid in the pot, and milk falls on that piece of meat, and then afterwards you stir it. So now you need shishim keneged not just the milk, but keneged the milk and the meat it fell on, which became ne'asar, and now you need to mevatel the whole thing. That's the concept of chanan. Now chanan, of course, is piggybacked on the concept of bittul. And the concept of bittul is a halachic idea that something can be rendered insignificant. What does that mean? Well, that means, like we said before, the halacha dictates that tam ki'ikr, but the flavor is like the original source. What if there's no flavor? What if there's no flavor? So if the whole yesod of the Yisra is based on tam ki'ikr, so if there is no tam, should be mutter. Should be mutter. Are we okay with the little lumdas? I don't want to get too off track. There's an unbelievable crazy place. You asked the kasha based on the Rosh in Nida. I think the Rosh is in Nida on the Sugya on Samach Vav Mud Beis. The Tosos in Nida, Tosos and the Rosh both, asked the following kasha. Gemara Nida there talks about a beged shenevdo b'kilayim. If you have a beged shenevdo b'kilayim, it's also l'machol l'nachri. If I have a garment that has shatnez lost in the garment, let's say I have a wool garment, and it gets some linen mixed into the garment. So the halacha is that I can't sell the garment to a guy, he'll sell it back to a Jew. Right? He'll sell it back to a Jew. Tosos and the Rosh there in Nida both ask the following kasha. They both ask, why isn't the shatnez batal? If I have a beged shenevda b'kilayim, I have a beged that's wool, I have a linen fiber somewhere in the beged I can't find it. Why isn't it batal? I say it's batal. So Tosfos says, an unbelievably yesod. Tosfos says bittul is only shayach. We have isser into heter, but where they're both heter, and the isser is the mixture, there's no such thing as bittul. And shatnez could come in here wearing a fully linen beged. You can go there to Yisrael. You can go to Tzfas on Erev Shabbos. There are people wearing all white linen begadim. They can come here with a Kohen Gadol in big decker linen. I can come in here wearing a pure wool suit, no problem. So 100%. You have a hashkacha from every bedatz in the world that checks shatnez. It's glad kosher v'yosher, 100%. The problem is when you mix them. So says Tosos and the Rosh in Nida, when you take two things that are mutter and you mix them together, that's not bittul. No bittul there. That is the isser. So Frank the Crazy Placey has the bittul and basar b'cholov. Has the bittul and basar b'cholov. Basar b'cholov, this is heter, that's heter. It's glad kosher, it's cholov Yisrael. Came from a cow wearing a yarmulke. How is it bittul? It's Crazy Placey's kasha. Should I answer it, or you want to handle with it? The answer it now? Crazy Place is unbelievably so. Crazy Place says, you know why it's batal? It's not bittul. It's not bittul. Basar b'cholov has a yesod that's not the same as taruvos. Why? Because in Hilchos taruvos, the halach is that the Torah aser tam. Basar b'cholov is not enough. Because basar b'cholov, I could have tam, and it's not also midiraisa. Why? Because lo sivashel di b'chol levimo, the Torah aser derech bishul. Right? Aser derech bishul. If I have tam, not derech bishul, not also midiraisa. If I take davar pasha, but not pasha to most people, if I take a blender and I take a piece of meat and I take a cup of milk and I make myself a meat shake, I'm sure that'll come out as popular one of these days, right? I make a shake, steak and milk. It's not Issa Deraisa. Not Issa Deraisa. I heard from Rabbi Koren many years ago. I remember he once said this. It was a good zug. He once said that most people, if you gave them a bowl of milk and meat and told them to eat it, they tell you you're out of your mind. But they speak lashon hara. So lashon hara is deraisa. That bowl of milk and meat's derabanan. Now you're better off eating the bowl of milk and meat all day long and speaking word of lashon hara. Right? He's 100% right. He doesn't even ask Kama, but it's derabanan. If it's not derech bishul, it's not deraisa. Set the crazy you placey. Milk and meat together, it's not always bittul. If you don't have a tam, it's not derech bishul. Once there's no tam, that's not derech bishul. Because derech bishul, by definition, is that it's the tam. It's not also. Not also. It's a beautiful crazy you placey. So in basar b'cholov, if you don't have the tam, it's batel because it's not derech bishul. Fine. What's the sheer bittul? So we B'nai Ashkenaz use a standard sheer bittul of shishim. We use a standard of 60 for a sheer bittul. What do I mean by that? The mechaber shita and tzadiches is yitamenu kfela. The mechaber will have you find a goy who has expertise in tasting, and let that goy taste it, let you know if it's a problem or not. The Ramah is not happy with that. The Ramah says we rely on shishim alone. It's not clear in the Ramah exactly why. Rikiv Eger is mesupuk why. Why the Ramah is not happy with relying on a kfela. But we don't rely on it. Shaila is it only for Isser? Is it for Heter? Can use as a diyun in the Achronim. Let's say I have a Shaila where some milk got into water. So it's 100% Heter, right? Some milk got into water. I had hot water boiling on the stove. I was about to make, a stew, a soup in that water. And then one of my kids came by and poured their milk for their cereal right on the counter next to it. And of course, it splashed into my pot. So now, It's totally parv. Right? Now, maybe it's milchik. Could I taste the water, determine there's no tam cholov in the water, and then put my chicken in it? Or my meat in it? So it's totally in this Ramah, in this Rikiv as to why we don't rely on Ti'imas Kveila or our Ti'ima. Could be, yeah. Could be that in Echanam, if you don't taste it, good enough? Could be. I'm not saying that Lamaisa. Lamaisa, we rely on Shishim, 60-1 to be Mavatal Tam. Now, this is a Taruvos issue. People get confused by this all the time. Bittul of Mamoshos is Rov. There's a din Lintos Acharab Lahatos. Bittul of Chatichos is Rov. Besides the bittul of the Rov, for the Mamoshos, you need a bittul of the Tam. And those two have to work in tandem all the time. Because if I take the Mamoshos out, I still need a Shishim to Mavatal the Tam. If I have Mamoshos in and no Tam, I still need a Rov to Mavatal the Mamoshos. I need both. But we go with a shear generally of Shishim, with exceptions. Because not everything is Balta B'Shishim. For example, a Milsa David L'Taima, something which is made for its flavor, that's not going to be Balta B'Shishim. They have industrial flavorings that they'll put 3 drops in a 500-gallon vat, and it'll flavor things. That's not Balta B'Shishim. It's made for its flavor. We have other exceptions to Bittul, which you'll come to in Taruvos. I assume Taruvos is next after Basar B'Chol. Maybe, okay. Maybe I should save it so I'll get invited back. But there are exceptions. You have a beria is not patela, so that's not a Basar B'Chol issue in general, unless you happen to have a whole cow that falls into your right. But that's not so benimtza, right? But a beria is not batel. A davar shiva minyan isn't batel. If something is choshev and it's sold by count, it's not batel. Chatich rilis kabe is not batel if it's a chatich. That is no gay in Basar B'Chol and Taruvos. If you have a chatich rilis kabe, a chatich that in and of itself, the way it is, would be fit to serve as a portion to give kavod to somebody, so that's not batel. You won't have a bittul in that particular case. Now, when you have a transfer of tam with heat, because transfer of tam can come through bishul, heat. It can come through maliach, come through salting. It can come through kavush, through soaking. And kavush is soaking for a 24-hour period in a liquid. Transfer of tam in Basar B'Cholav through malicha or through kavush is derabbanan. Right? If I have, the Taz brings down that if I have a safek kavush on Basar B'Cholav, it's mutter because it's a safek derabbanan. Everybody asks on this Taz because even if it's on an Isser, it tells a cheskes heter. So why do you have to come on this to a safek derabbanan in the kula? If I have a chefta shel heter, and now safek if it's kavush 24 hours in davar osir, safek not, so it has a cheskes heter. So how could the safek be motive from the cheskes heter? That's its own diyun. But by Basar B'Cholav, for sure, the halacha is that if you have a safek kavush, you're not sure if it's 24 hours or not, it's mutter. Safek derabbanan l'kula. The Pri Megadim says, but don't cook it. Because if you cook it, they're entering the safek deraisa. They don't cook it. Fine. By kavush and by malicha, the halacha is that it's derabbanan. Derabbanan. By bishul, it's deraisa. You already saw in the beginning of Basar B'Chol, Shiloh's, if you have a cheeseburger, is that a deraisa Basar B'Chol? Is that derech bishul? That not derech bishul is solid, but betzim derech bishul is deraisa. Derech bishul means one of a number of possibilities. What do I mean by that? So the first point of it is that in order for something to be bishul, both with regard to a deraisa of Basar B'Chol and with regard to transferring tam, it has to be yatzel ledispo. It has to be yatzel ledispo. There is a famous Yerushalmi, which the Shach brings down, that there's a Shail in Girson Yerushalmi, that the Chachamim also harchako b'klirishon shal gabe eish afilu pachos miyatzel ledispo. There's such a Yerushalmi. What exactly Yerushalmi means is a big discussion, but the pashtus in halacha is that if you don't have a chom of Yad Solet, that's not going to affect transfer of Tam. It's not going to affect Bishul. Now, most people coming into Basar B'chol and Taruvos are familiar with Yad Solet of Milchus Shabbos. Right? That's where most people have their pesach to the concept of Yad Solet. It's the same shear, and it's better the same suffix. Right? Because what exactly is the Chom Yad Solet is a big vikuch in the post. Unclear. For those who are learning the daf, so the Darkei Tshuva has that it's safe to assume that up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit is not Yad Solet. Why? Because we paskin that the Beis Hashlita is tzonei. The discussion in the Gemara in Chul in the first parak is the Beis Hashlita is the area of the neck where the animal shechts. When it's shechted, is that considered hot or cold? We paskin it's tzonei. So the body temperature of a cow is 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The Pislei Tshuva, the Darkei Tshuva rather brings down. So if we paskin, Beis Hashlita is tzonei, it's cold, and we know the temperature, so therefore it's a davar pashut. That's tzonei. That's where that shear 104 degrees comes from. You've heard the shear, you've heard probably the shear of Moshe, that 104 degrees Fahrenheit is safe to assume is not yet Yad Solet Ispo. Shlomo Zalman held up to about 113 degrees Fahrenheit is not Yad Solet Ispo, and he felt that if the Beis Hashchita is tzoni, it would apply to ducks and geese also. Ducks have a higher body temperature than do cows. They're about 108 degrees Fahrenheit, and when you shecht the bird, the stress of the shlita actually causes the body temperature to rise. And if you shecht a bird that's got the flu, l'mashal, the Beis Hashchita is still tzonei, it's still cold. Allah doesn't distinguish and say, first take the temperature of your bird, see how he's feeling, right? Checklist. Have you been to the Far East recently? Okay? You shecht and it's tzonei. So says Rosh Shlomo Zalman, so up to 130 degrees for sure is safe. Many kashrus agencies today use 120 degrees as the shear of Yad Solet. I know the CRC does. They use 120 degrees as the not the Hasidic CRC, the CRC from Chicago. I don't know what their policy is, but the CRC from Chicago, they use 120 degrees as the shear for Yad Solet Ispo. Below Yad Solet Ispo, tzonei, it's cold. Above Yad Solet Ispo, potential problem. Potential bishul, and potential transfer of tam. I say potential because there's also a chiluk where you're encountering the Yad Solet Ispo temperature. Are you encountering it in a kli rishon? Are you encountering it in a kli sheni? Are you encountering it in an iri kli rishon? Or you're encountering it in a davar gush? What does that mean? So the halacha is the following. A kli rishon is mevashel and is maflit umavliya. Maflit umavliya ke'achod. What that means is that if I have a pot that was on the fire and the food that was cooked in that pot is in the pot and it's above Yad Solet Ispo, that pot has the capability of cooking something cold that comes into it and transferring tam into it, and absorbing tam from it. It's both maflit, it expels the tam in it into something else, umavliya, and it causes the tam to be absorbed. Okay, that's your kli rishon. A kli sheni, if the contents of the pot in which the food was cooked were transferred to another kli, a kli sheni is not mevashel, does not cook. That's the psak of the Gemara in Shabbos Lamates and Beis. A kli sheni is not mevashel. Why? Tosos famous shita. Tosos explains that the kli sheni, since the walls are tzonei, so while the food is trying to heat up the food inside, it's actually being cooled down by the walls of the pot. It's not mevashel. There's a lot to talk about there in the lumdus and the mitzias in terms of temperatures and if it plays out or when it plays out. The Chai Odom, Magen Avram, Chai Odom are mechal between a kli that's Yad Solet Ispo, kli sheni, versus Yad Nichvas Bo. It's hot enough to burn you, so that may be more problematic and create a transfer of tam or a bishul. But Yad Solet Ispo, kli sheni, not mavashel. in Shulchan Aruch itself, in Kuf Hey, in Yeridea, in Taruvos, in Shulchan Aruch, a Kli Sheni is not a problem. Goes into a Kli Sheni, it's fine. The Shach and the Taz are ma'orer that there are Mikoros, both in Shas Bavli as well as in Shulchan Aruch itself, in Hilchos Pesach, that indicate that a Kli Sheni can be maflit or mavlias. The Shach brings down a Kli Sheni is not maflit or mavliya kechad. It doesn't do it at the same time. And a Kli Sheni would make a difference if what it's transferring tam to is a davar kasha or a davar rach. Is what's transferring to a kli that's hard, it's solid, that's less permeable, or something that's softer and more permeable. But a Kli Sheni is not mavashel. So any Kli Sheni basar b'chol of shaila you deal with, it's a drabanan. It's not mavashel. Now, is there tam, is there not? So that's beyond the scope of the shear, right? That's the shach and kufay, and that's a lot beyond the scope of the shear. Between a Kli Rishon and a Kli Sheni is what's called Iri Kli Rishon. And Iri Kli Rishon is where you have the Kli Rishon pouring out directly without a nifsach hakiluch, without a break in the flow, onto something else. So Iri Kli Rishon, the direct flow from a Kli Rishon that's above Yad Solet Espo, is a machlokas Rashbam and Ri in Tosfos in Shabbos Lamates Beis. The Rashbam feels that Iri Kli Rishon is Kli Sheni. Once it leaves the confines of the original Kli, it's no longer a Kli Rishon, has the halachic status of Kli Sheni. It's not mivashel, it's not maflit, it's nothing. And their machlokes is telling that machlokes in the Gemara in Ayin Vav, Ayin Zayin Psachim I mentioned before of Titol Gvar. How are you done? That which, when you pour from one onto another, that it doesn't aser, but it's mavashel kadei klipa. Does that mean that betzim it's not mavashel, but the klipa is a chumrah? Or does it mean betzim it's mavashel, but the rest of it's a cool because he cools it down? That's the Rashbam, and the Rashbam holds it's a Kli Sheni. Has all the halachic status of Kli Sheni, not mafli or mavli, it's not mavashel.
You don't have to start on the walls. By you don't have to start on the walls, cooling it down.
Correct.
But still, it's not a problem.
Correct. Correct. So the Rashbam clearly is not going with the wall svara, right? Tosfos, it's probably the Rishita in Tosfos. Tosfos does not bring down a name there, as far as I remember, but probably not going with the walls svara. His svara will be the opposite. It's the walls of the Kli Rishon that cause the bishul. Now, the Rishita is that no, Iri Kli Rishon is Kli Rishon. You pour out of a Kli Rishon, it is considered like a Kli Rishon, and is mevashel, and is maflit, and is mavliya. It, the whole 9 yards, it does everything that a Kli Rishon will do. L'maisa, it's a suffix. L'maisa, it's a suffix. We don't have a clear-cut psak halacha one way or the other, and therefore we're machmir in halacha to treat an Iri Kli Rishon ki Kli Rishon. We're machmir to treat it as such. We're also machmir to treat it not as such. So in other words, for hechsher kalim, someone asked me a shayla this week about a hechsher kalim on a particular kli, and they wanted to use an Iri method to kasher it, and you can't do it. Because the kli was used directly with cooking, Kli Rishon, so an Iri is not going to be good enough, it's not going to kasher it. Right? So we're machmir on both ways to consider it Kli Rishon, when that's a chumrah, and Kli Sheni, when that is a chumrah. Now, the last piece of that puzzle in terms of the various kalim is what's called a davar gush. And that is a famous marshal. The Mechaber and Ramah in Kofhei and Yeridei and Shin Ches and Archaim don't bring it down. Do not cite this idea at all. The marshal, based on Tosfos in Shabbos, that it's the walls of the Kli Sheni that cool down the food and prevent the vishul. The marshal says, so if I have a solid mass of food that doesn't take the shape of the walls of the pot, that solid mass of food never gets the din Kli Sheni. It keeps the din of a Kli Rishon. So when you go down from Kli 1 to Kli 2, in the Marshal's perspective, if I take a piece of meat out of the oven, solid piece of meat, or off the grill, and I put it onto a serving tray, onto my plate, onto the next plate, goes all the way down the line. As long as it's Yad Soletispo, it's a Kli Rishon as far as you go. Kli Rishon, Dover Gush. The Mechaber Ramo don't bring it down. The Shach does. The Magen Avraham does. And that's very much going to be telling on who you learn from, how much you're machmir for this marshal. So, but there is such a marshal in a Dover Gush. I'll end with two important points here that are key to transfer of tam, which are going to come up very soon in Basar B'Cholov, and they'll come up again if and when you do taruvos, and that is concepts of zeya and reicha. Zeya and reicha is steam, or reicha is aroma. And there is a Rosh in the Chuvos in Klal Chaf, and the Rosh, based on the Mishnah in Machshirin, the Rosh holds that zeya from food has the halachic status of the food it came from. The Mishnah in Machshirin has its two Mishnayos in Machshirin, both deal with the same idea. If I have a tamei body of water inside a home, and the tamei body of water steams up, you walk in, the windows are steamed up, the whole home is tamei. The tumah that's in the water transfers by and is carried by the steam that comes up. So the Rosh in Klal Chaf says, just like tumah is transferred by zeya by steam, so to Isser is transferred by zeya by steam. And therefore, the zeya that comes from the food has the status of the food itself. That's nogea in a kedera, in a pot, where you cover the pot. It's nogea in an oven, where the steam from the food might rise in the oven. And it's very nogea in Basar B'Cholov, because it's very nogea in terms of determining whether you can use one oven for both meat and dairy. You have to have separate ovens. That's a zeya shaila. It's a zeya shaila. And the poskim, who are dan the shaila, the Mitzchas Yitzchok and Rav Moshe and others, they're dan the zeya aspect of the issue. How does the steam affect it? So the halach l'mais is well beyond the scope of this year, but be aware of the concept that the steam that rises from a food item can and does, according to the Rosh, transfer the flavor. The Mishkanos Yaakov is cholak on the whole yisod, but the Rosh holds it transfers the flavor.
Cold?
Pardon?
The steam it's cold?
No, it has to be Atzoletisbo.
The steam itself?
Yeah, it has to be Atzoletisbo. Has to be Atzoletisbo. If it's not Atzoletisbo, not going to transfer tam. But if it's Atzoletisbo, it'll transfer tam.
Mamash.
Pardon?
But it's mamashes.
Well, it's mamashos of water.
No,
Right.
it's mamashes of the whatever's underneath. It's coming from.
Well, all that's coming up is water. Steam is just the water that's coming out of it.
I know that. I'm not
Right.
saying that. What? It's obviously not water. It's the same mamashes of the zaz down.
Well, is it mamoshes or not? That's the shaila, right? That's the shaila. So Mishkas Yaakov is cholik and says the Rosh is trying to be medame tum and tara to Isser and Heter, and he feels that that's incorrect. It's incorrect. We pass like the Rosh, but Zay is a problem. But the shaila is where and when. Where and when, which is a big vikuach. The next issue is Reicha, which is a fascinating discussion. There's two sugyos, one in Psachim, Ayin Vav, and one in Avodah Zarah, Ayin Hey, and they seem to be cholik with one another. We cholik with one another in Psak Halacha, whether Reicha milso or not, whether we hold in Halacha that the aroma that comes out of a food item has halachic significance. Tam kicker, that we say. If flavor mamish transfers, there we say it's like the ikr. What about the reicha? If the scent, the aroma is absorbed, is that milsa or not? Reicha milsa, reicha lav milsa. Rav in Maseches Psachim holds reicha milsa, and Shmuel holds not. Rava in Maseches Avodah Zarah holds reicha lav milsa. Abai holds reicha milsa. Klal Psak would be Rav against Shmuel, Rav against Abai. They're cholik on one another. So big deal in the poskim had to be done with reicha. L'maisa, we hold la halacha lechatchila. We're makbid on reicha, but the Yevid absolutely not. But the Yevid reicha lav milsa, with the possible exception of Pesach. And Pesach is because chametz is also b'mashu. Maybe it's a mashu, it's always bottled. But the aroma is an area where there's a possible transfer of halachic tam, which could raise particular issues. So you'll come across terms like zeya or reicha and now at least you'll know the background to them, the Rosh and the Machlokas and the Gemara Pesachim and Avodah Zarah. I hope this did more clarifying than confusing, and if it did, then we did our job. And I really appreciate the invite, and I thank you for listening. Mir Tashem, you should have Hatzlacha. It's a great limud. You should enjoy every minute of it. Just have Hatzlacha in your limud, and you should become Moriah Rabbi Yisrael.
Shira Malai.